metaphor of flow is one that many people have used to describe a sense of effortless action they feel in moments that stand out as some of the best of their lives. Artists and musicians refer to it as aesthetic rapture, programmers as being dialed in, and athletes as being in the zone. Being in the zone is a state of mind, achieved when we feel completely engaged in our performance, where the concept of the self slips below the threshold of our awareness and our full attention is given to accomplishing something difficult and worthwhile. It's a feeling of complete immersion. I first remember being in the zone whilst playing representative basketball as a junior. I remember it vividly. It was the season final and we were underdogs. It was a moment in life where everything just went right. It was a type of euphoria, a strange calmness. I felt as if I could run all day without tiring, that I could dribble around any opponent. And I felt psychic as I could literally see 3 to 4 plays ahead. With 10 seconds to go in the game, we found ourselves down by 2. The other team had the ball. They shot. My eyes followed the ball as it made its way to the basket. It bounced gently on the front of the rim and then onto the backboard, trying its hardest to fall in, but it missed. I grabbed the rebound and raced down the court. I dribbled around one player and then another. I drove my way to the basket. But before I could get my shot away, I was fouled. With 1.1 second left on the clock, I made my way to the free throw line. I looked out into the crowd and I saw looks of anguish and trepidation on the faces of our supporters. But for me, it didn't matter. There was a complete absence of mental noise. It was liberating, exciting. I looked up at the basket and it seemed bigger and I felt like I almost had a mystical connection to it. Time seemed to slow, like my mind was experiencing time dilation, a consequence of Einstein's special relativity. There was no self-analysis, no inner voice, no doubt, no worries, just the moment. I was in the zone. I calmly nailed both free throws and sent the game into overtime, where we eventually won the game. It was a fond memory. It was my first memory of being in the zone. It was really magical. But when I was younger, basketball was something I pursued with passion, with vigour. I practiced every day, sometimes up to 6 hours a day. When I was intrinsically motivated to be the best that I could be. For me, the experience was the reward. When I wasn't at team practice, I was working on my individual skills, my dribbling, around the back, through the legs, baseline drives, pull-up jump shots, three-point shots, fadeaways, baby hooks, fast breaks, low post, high post, the pick and roll. Perhaps I had delusions of grandeur of becoming a professional NBA player. Some may have even said these delusions were unhealthy. But it was a beautiful thing. I was immersed in something that taught me the importance of self-discipline, persistence, patience, and resilience, and what it's like to be truly and fully invested in something. And it wasn't complicated. I didn't have to take lessons or learn the basics first. I just picked up the ball one day and started playing. I enjoyed the game for what it was, the big picture. My coach didn't make me go away and master every individual skill or learn every rule. He just let me play. What he did do, however, was inspire me to achieve. He gave me hope that I could be the best that I could be and invited me, through complete immersion, to get to that wonderful state of being in the zone. My coach wasn't a teacher, but he understood learning. It wasn't about him, it was about me. He didn't do what was easy, he did what was right. He went above and beyond. And for him, it was definitely about discovery, not delivery. And this touches on one of the greatest pedagogical fallacies in our schools today, that one only learns that which is being delivered. The people who believe in this fallacy will try and convince you that students need to know the basics first, that they need to master the individual skills before they can play the game. That discovery, inquiry, and problem solving comes only after the corresponding lower level skills have been mastered first. And this just isn't true. Last year, I took a group of students on a service learning experience to a remote Indigenous school on the outskirts of Alice Springs. This particular school had an enrolment of 200 students, but if 100 were in attendance on any given day, that was considered a success. The school ran buses out to the town camps to collect the children, and as an incentive, they offered free breakfast back at school for those that came in for the day. And as a consequence, Monday was the most well-attended day of the week, as many of the children had little to eat over the weekend. Travelling out to the town camps, we got to see the harsh conditions in which some of these students grew up in. With substance abuse at almost epidemic proportions in some of the town camps, these children would lay claim to being some of Australia's most disadvantaged and marginalised students. To put this in perspective, 50% of these students had a father in prison, 26% had a mother in prison, and 80% had at least one brother or sister in prison. Many students presented with complex trauma, things ranging from neglect, physical, mental, sexual abuse, and a host of untreated medical conditions that manifested themselves in a variety of ways, often causing 10-year-olds to have the mental capacity of a 2-year-old. But after we spent a lot of time developing some relationships with these students, developing some trust, we posed them a design challenge. We asked them to design their ideal, their dream playground, including what they think it might cost, and present us with a proposal. These students, many of which or whom couldn't even spell their own name, they attacked this challenge with vigour. They were in the zone, working in teams, sketching ideas and surveying the land for the best possible location. Some of their brainstorming included playground items like a ropes course, a climbing wall, gym equipment, an exercise bike, and recliners for an outdoor theatre. It would have been easy for us to say that we need to teach these kids to read and write and count properly first, and then to test them and talk about value adding. But what would that achieve? Every hour spent on the basics is an hour not spent helping them become creative and curious learners. Curious about the big picture, about the game. Because it's not about us. We need to make it about kids. Don't just do what's easy, do what's right. The preferred kind of pedagogy in any learning situation is always learner-centred and learner-driven. Project-based, experiential, and the primary language in learning situations is democratic and has to lead to a mindset of let's find out. The ability to find out information, to assess new situations, to deal with new concepts, essentially to learn how to learn, is now way more important than knowledge. Even more important is imagination. By placing a whole raft of materials in our junior school playground, old planks, tyres, bits of timber, hessian bags, palm leaves and pine cones, students' natural inclinations to imagine have been let loose as they design and build cubbies that have become everything from Cleopatra's tomb to shops and farms. We've seen resource management, conflict resolution, financial systems develop, engineering challenges overcome, and teamwork thrive as we just let kids be kids. Our head of junior school recently asked some of the students one lunchtime what they'd been up to.
This is like stuff, like you could use this as a desk. This is really useful.
So how do people pay?
Pine cones.
Pine cones?
Yeah, and then there's these giant ones that are $1,000.
Oh, right. Oh, hang on. Is this the pine cone? This is like the cash register, is it?
Yeah. You'll get the big stick. One big pine cone $100, one small one at $1. Yeah, that one is the big stick.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to get lots because we have a pine cone tree.
What you've got?
We've got a map.
Where did you get that?
We've got it at our classroom. And I got a clue.
So what's happening?
It says, and it's in human language, and it says a little scratch, and you must make go something's been happening with all these stuff. It just looks different at Camel House.
It does, doesn't it? They're changing all the cubbies around.
And it's changing all the stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about it?
And this could be about imagining too.
How?
Going around time and stuff like ancient Egypt. This could be imagining.
Could be ancient Egypt.
Yes,
Oh.
we're imagining. And I had great dreams. And all the cubbies, there are pyramids.
Oh, what's it show? What's it do?
There's lots of stuff around that
Okay.
shows us where to go. I found another clue.
What's it say?
It says it in doggy language, and I'm the only.
It says it in doggy language.
Yeah,
That's hard to understand.
Doggy language.
Okay.
And it says if you go right or left or that way, you will be close to Cleopatra's tomb.
When was the last time you spoke doggy language? I had some amazing conversations later on with these two. I said to the young girl, I said, whereabouts do you live? She looked me up and down and said, in a house. But then I was talking to the young boy and he was telling me a story about how his friend's grandpa had died. And I said, oh, that's terrible. I said, that's really sad. Hope you said sorry. And you said, why? I didn't do it. But and I do mean every kid is that imaginative. But somewhere in the system of school, they lose that wonder and enthusiasm. They memorise facts, and the joy of discovery, which is really the meaning behind those facts, has been beaten out of them. They become worried about asking dumb questions. They become willing to accept inadequate answers and to have superficial understandings of things because of the culture we create in our schools. But it doesn't have to be this way, because it's not about us. We need to make it about kids. We don't have to just do what's easy, we need to do what's right. And in order for kids to love learning, not only does it have to be about discovery and imagination, but it also has to be playful. Because the moment we invite kids to see the world in a playful way, it connects pleasurable emotions with learning. This idea of connecting pleasurable emotions with learning was evident in some of the work I was doing with some at-risk students. A particular boy who was having some difficulty at school was given a design brief to design a level using some game design software that would teach his peers a particular concept in mathematics. He got to work and he'd spent a lot of time developing and designing his level. You could see he was in the zone as he wanted to work through recess and lunch. He was very proud of the work that he'd done. It got to a Friday afternoon and he'd finished. And so we uploaded his game to an online games community. Now this particular boy is disadvantaged. He didn't have access to the internet or the computer at home. And so he comes back in on Monday and he's really keen to find out how many times his level had been played over the weekend. So we go inside, we turn the computer on, we log in and we find that over the space of one weekend, this particular boy's level had been played, rated and reviewed over 50,000 times. The effect this had on this young boy brought tears to my eyes. He now knew that people out there valued the work that he did. Even if during traditional class time he was secretly embarrassed every time he got his grades back from his teacher. And this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't given a chance to express his learning in ways that was meaningful to him. And so this means our focus needs to be broad, not narrow. What do we think we've achieved when we say we've covered the curriculum? What curriculum? What does that even mean? A curriculum isn't something that you pick up off the shelf and rigidly impose and enforce on kids. The value of any curriculum is as a framework for creating experiences that are personally meaningful, real, relevant, and authentic. Just like these 4-year-olds who demand to engage in mindfulness every single day. Or our Year 5s who have just finished building 3D printers from 3D printed parts and open source electronics equipment. We need to give kids the opportunity to explore their passions, to engage in real projects that have real outcomes. Let them investigate game design, music, painting, virtual reality. Let them work with businesses, create their own businesses. Let them engage in social justice, whatever they're into. Just because it isn't in the curriculum doesn't mean it's not important. It's not about us. It's about kids. Don't just do what's easy, do what's right. And in order to do what's right, we need to focus on problems, not solutions. Sometimes life isn't a problem to be solved. There's a place for nuance and paradox and the recognition that we don't have all the answers. But education is a problem that can be solved. And if we focus on problems instead of solutions, we can look at the same system that others have observed for over a century and offer new perspectives. I don't know if education scales to any degree. And in fact, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that it doesn't. But what this means is that we can create our own schools. Schools with individual stories about remarkable learning, about kids being in the zone, full of hope and wonder. Don't be afraid to be different. Thank you.